Alright guys, what's up? My name is David J. Kelly. Welcome to my channel, and today I want to make a longer form video talking about a 3-year transformation I underwent between, I believe it was May 2019 and May of 2022 or July of 2022. Now, this transformation I posted on a YouTube short recently, and it actually got a lot of views and a lot of different comments about things. I wanted to kind of dive in deeper and share some of my lessons I've learned in my physique transformation during that time. So that's exactly what we're gonna do in this video today. So before we get started, make sure you like this video, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you are aware of all upcoming videos. Now, before we get into this, I want to give a disclaimer that I am not a doctor. I'm not advising you what to do with your own physique transformation. I do offer coaching, so if that is something you're interested in, go down the link in my bio, you can apply there. But I'm just going to share what I did and what worked for me along the way. So do not take any of this as medical advice. I'm not a doctor, as I just explained, but I'm going to be very transparent in sharing what I did along the way to get here. But there is a consistent theme that I want you guys to understand. So I got my notes right here. And I got my water. Let's strap in, let's get to it. So if we go back, and I'm gonna pop in pictures as I go through here. So if we go back to 2019, for starting at the beginning, the first picture you saw in the thumbnail was a picture at the beginning of my first competition. I was 18 weeks out there. So at that time I was about 25 years old. And yeah, 25 years old. And I had trained for about 8 years at that point. Now I had used some PEDs before this prep in my life. You know, this wasn't my first go around with PEDs. I was doing a bodybuilding show. I was obviously using PEDs, and I was using PEDs throughout this entire transformation process at varying levels, varying amounts. And I'm not going to get specifically into that stuff, but I just want you guys to understand that was on the table during this. But I'm going to explain some of that as I go here. So it's important to note, like I said, I'm not natural in either one of these pictures. So before you guys say, well, obviously you transformed from this picture to that picture with PEDs. Yeah, I did, but I also was not natural in the first picture. So what it really comes down to, and this is gonna be an overarching theme in this video, is nutrition adherence, as well as being consistent with training and cardio and all those different things. All the factors matter when you're transforming your physique, okay? What PEDs really do is they help you to transform faster, and they can help you to achieve a level of hardness and musculature that you would not be able to have otherwise without them. That's really what they do, if I'm being honest. They are not a magic solution for all this. So in that picture, I'm about 272 pounds, give or take. And I dieted all the way down in that picture to 237 pounds. And what's interesting about that, I'll pop a picture up of what I looked like on stage. What's interesting about that is that I won my super heavyweight class that year in 2019, but I also got 4th place in Class C in Classic Physique, which is kind of funny given where this is going. But what I thought was really interesting is that my weight ended up on that show day being exactly the same as the weight you're seeing in that transformation picture, okay? So I'm about 236 pounds in that transformation picture, and I'm also 237 pounds in this picture I just showed you of me competing on stage. Drastically different physique, but the same weight, okay? So what ended up happening was, over the years, after I competed in 2019, I went into 2020 and I didn't do anything with bodybuilding for most of that year. I still trained and worked out and had fun and everything, but obviously that was the COVID year, the big COVID year. And what happened was gyms shut down and I didn't really have access to training. So what I did was, I did get into, got some ice in this, I'm sorry. But I did get into the gym, and I was able to work out through a contact I had. So I was able to keep training. I was totally off PEDs from the end of 2019 in like December, November timeframe, all the way through the next year in November. I did not get back, I'm sorry, that's not true, in October of 2020. So I went a whole year without PEDs. I didn't really make any progress during that time. And it's not because I wasn't on PEDs, it's because I was not, eating the right way. I was not training the right way. I was kind of just broing it out, if you will. I was not treating it like a true bodybuilder would, okay? And I learned a lot of lessons during that time. I learned that, like, if you're not gonna adhere to nutrition and you're not gonna train the way you know you're supposed to, you're not gonna make that much progress. I think that's pretty obvious. So as I was saying there, I learned some really important lessons during that phase where I wasn't really involved in bodybuilding all that much. I learned that you have to be adhering to nutrition and training hard consistently. Whether you are on PEDs, off PEDs, maybe you're just on TRT, you're not doing a full-blown blast or whatever. I see a lot of this talk online on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube of guys saying, I'm just on TRT, I don't want to train that hard. Like, you're still enhanced and you still should be training hard. And even if you're natural, you should train hard. I have clients that make crazy natural progress. In fact, I made crazy natural progress for the first 8 to 9 years I trained. And you can too. So don't give me that BS. I don't want to hear that stuff. So I ended up getting down in 2020. I did like a little bit of an off season, not a very good one or long one to be honest with you, at the end of 2020. I just ran testosterone by itself. I think 600 milligrams was the most I ever ran it during that time. I might have bumped it up to like 700 for a little bit because I remember adding some testosterone propionate in there. On top of the anathate I was running, but I don't think I kept that in because I flare up really bad from that stuff, and I think it bothered me. So I ended up pulling that out. And then in the beginning of 2021, I'm going to flash the pictures up here. I was starting a prep for what was going to be the Mr. Pittsburgh. So I live currently in the Pittsburgh region. I spent half my time in Pittsburgh and half in Florida, basically. And I was going to compete in the Mr. Pittsburgh. Now, what happened was I dieted this whole time, and I just could not get to the point to get my condition to where I wanted to be. I ended up competing, and I'll put the pictures up here, at the PA Muscle at 251 pounds. So I ended up being 14 pounds heavier on stage than I was in 2019. And at first I thought, oh my gosh, I put on 14 pounds of stage weight in that time frame. That's not what happened, okay? I was leaner, in fact, than I was at that previous show I did, but I was nowhere near stage condition of what I needed to be. Even after dieting all that time and everything. My body hit a wall. I was over dieted. I ended up reverse dieting. I hired a new coach at the end of that show, okay? I won my class at that show, I should say. I lost the overall. I was not conditioned enough, which is a recurring theme. So what I ended up doing was I hired a new coach, came right out of that prep, reverse dieted. I lost 10 pounds during my reverse diet. So reverse diet, if you don't know what that is, that's where you basically take your calories, all right, and you add to them. Versus when you're dieting, you're coming down, you're gonna start at a baseline, and then you're just gonna keep pulling away, pulling away, pulling away. Well, with the reverse diet, you're gonna start at a baseline, and you're gonna keep adding calories. Now, what should happen when you reverse diet is you should add weight. Sometimes what happens though, if your metabolism is so destroyed from dieting, and dieting really hard, doing a lot of cardio, doing a lot of things over the top in that aspect, your body is like, please feed me more, please feed me more. You start feeding it, your metabolism revs up more, you burn more fat off. And that's why refeeds and diet breaks work really well, but that's a topic for another video. So I had hired Kyle Wilkes, which is a coach you may or may not be familiar with. And from day one of that, I was locked in on committing to this. I learned in that previous time I said during 2020 that when I wasn't committed and I wasn't consistent, I didn't make progress. So what did I say to myself? After that show in 2021, I said, I want to be an IFBB pro in classic physique. I was told by judges, I was told by people that I have what it takes, I have the structure for it. So at that time I realized, okay, I need to take this a little bit more seriously. And I hired a better coach, and I ended up going from that point right there, like winning my class at a regional show, to the next year I did everything as on plan as I possibly could have. I was never worse, I should say, than 90% on plan that whole year. Through the reverse diet, through my off season, everything. I grew a pretty good amount in my reverse diet just on TRT, okay? A lot of guys come out of shows and they'll run like PEDs, hire to blast up and put on all kinds of size. You don't need to do that. You can make a ton of progress after you diet really, really hard, simply by going back to being natural or being on a TRT dose where you're just having a baseline of testosterone to basically make you a normally functioning male, And I trained my ass off. I ate exactly the reverse that Kyle gave me. And occasionally, of course, I strayed off it when I went on vacation and stuff like that. But I really learned a lot during this, that basically my body composition got better. I put on size and everything with what? 175 milligrams of testosterone, 200 milligrams at most. And the thing is, it taught me something. Consistency is the key. It's not PEDs, okay? And that, again, I want to beat into your head. If you want to have a great transformation in your physique, it comes down to consistency. Consistency is everything. Consistency is what it takes. Whether you need to make massive transformation in your physique. Maybe it's going to take 5 years. Maybe it's going to take 3 years. Maybe it's going to take 16 weeks. Okay. The fact of the matter is, the more consistent you are, the better your results are going to be, with or without PEDs. That is just a fact. And I wish I knew that when I was 17, 18, 19, 20 years old, because I could have even made more progress naturally had I known that. So as I said, through that whole off season, I stayed at least 90% consistent. 90% consistent, meaning I was on plan, eating the way I should be 90 to 95% of the time. I did run a little bit of an off-season blast with testosterone, and I was going to use NPP. I used that for 3 weeks. NPP is nandrolone phenylpropionate. It's actually a short ester form of DECA, if you're familiar with that. I don't do well with those compounds at all. I'm very sensitive to a lot of anabolics. So I ended up dropping that, and I just did the testosterone. And I made great progress in about 12 weeks. I put on a good amount of size. Maybe I'll flash the pictures up here. But again, I just basically, the only thing that changed during that time is my food went up, and I went from being on TRT to being on an elevated amount of testosterone. I think it was maybe 750 milligrams. Again, that NPP was only in there for maybe 3 weeks. It fucked with my head a lot, and I dropped it because nothing is worth your mental health. Okay, straight up. And a lot of these compounds can do that. But again, topic for another video probably. Now, come to 2022. This is when I made my biggest stride, for sure. Okay, I started my prep for Junior USA's and Mr. Pittsburgh, which is my plan. Now, the Mr. Pittsburgh is a regional show, very big regional show. And the Junior USA's is a national show where you can turn pro. Okay, it's a pro qualifier. Plan was to do the bodybuilding and classic physique at the Mr. Pittsburgh, and then do classic physique at Junior USA's and win Class D and classic physique and get my pro card. So what happened was I slowly came down over 20 weeks for the Pittsburgh. I'll show a picture from the start of that prep until the end of it. So I slowly came down over 20 weeks, and plain and simple, my condition was not good enough, all right? But I transformed a hell of a lot. I went from about 278, I think, to around 243. And long story short, I ended up having a conversation with the judges at that show, and they told me, hey, we really love your physique and your structure a lot, but you're not going to be lean enough, because Junior USA's was the week after the Pittsburgh, so it just wouldn't have worked out. What I ended up doing was pushing back to Mr. Universe, Universe, that's a different show, which was about, I believe, 8 weeks after the Pittsburgh. So I had another 8 weeks of dieting. So my total prep was 28 weeks. And I suffered a lot at the end of that. I'm going to be honest with you guys. That's the hardest I've ever dieted in my life. The last 2 or 3 weeks before Universe was terrible. Getting from that 243 down to 236 was just something to be had, okay? And I had to push my body very, very hard. I nearly broke mentally and physically during that. And again, there was nothing different during, I just want to reiterate this. There was nothing different during any of these preps, compound-wise. It was the standard prep compounds that everybody uses, okay? I used that stuff in 2019. I used that stuff in 2021 and 2022. Here's the difference. Here's why I looked so much different in 2022 than I did, what I believe at least, in 2022 versus 2021 or 2019. Time. Muscle maturity makes a big difference. So the more muscle tissue you have, the better. The longer you have that tissue, even better, right? The other thing is that I was simply leaner, right? I got to a lower body fat level, and you're gonna look better and tighter at a lower body fat level. Everybody knows that. So I simply got leaner than I ever had before. Where I placed at Universe, I got 5th place in Class D. I was 3 spots away from my pro card. So my plan moving forward into next year is to obviously get my pro card. And what I need to do is make improvements to my legs and get my condition a little bit better. But here's the fact, and I want to break this down. I want to make this as concrete as possible for you guys to understand. If you want to have a physique transformation, you don't need to use PEDs, straight up. Will it make your life easier? Absolutely. But as I always explain to people, my clients and everybody in between, everybody watching this video, it's not the be all end all, okay? What is the end all be all, if you will, is nutrition. I could take the same PEDs, okay, the exact same cycle, and I could eat at maintenance and I will look different. I could eat at surplus, I will put on muscle, right? Or I could eat at a deficit and I will lose fat. And whether I gain body fat, lose body fat, recomp or whatever, has everything to do with what is coming into my body and what is being expended. Okay? Plain and simple. That is how you determine whether or not you're going to lose body fat or put on muscle. Plain and simple. Again, you can do that naturally or you can do that with PEDs. I did 8 to 9 years naturally. Okay? So consistency, as I already iterated, and I'm going to reiterate, is the name of the game. If you want to change your body, you want to change your physique, you have to be consistent. I was 100% consistent during prep. Those 7 months, that 28-week prep, I was 100% consistent. I didn't cheat. I didn't miss a meal. I didn't miss a training session, cardio, nothing. I missed nothing. That's why my transformation during that prep was so amazing, because I did it like my life depended on it, okay? You have to understand that what you put in is what you're gonna get out. With very few things in life, that is the case. A lot of things in life, sometimes there's a lot of external factors and stuff. Your body is completely in your control. What you put in your mouth, how much energy you expend on a daily basis, the amount of steps you take, how hard you train, whether or not you use PEDs, that is all up to you, 100%. So you control that. If you want to make a change to your physique, you gotta be consistent. And if you don't know where to start, I'm more than happy to help you. As I said, I coach people in the lifestyle and bodybuilding arena, and I've had great success with transformations with them, including myself. So if you are interested in that, find the link below and apply for my coaching. I price myself extremely reasonable to, allocate for the fact that supplements, food, all that other stuff costs a good amount of money too. So if you need some guidance with that, I'm more than happy to help. Drop a comment below if you are interested in learning more or have any specific questions about this transformation, and I'd be happy to help you guys. So thank you so much for joining in on this video. I hope this helps shed some light on what I did and what you could do yourself. I could get more into the PEDs if you guys want to in a separate video and talk more about that directly. But I just wanted to do a broad overview of how I transformed my body in those 3 years. So I will see you guys next video. Again, make sure you like, comment, and are subscribed with your notifications on. I'll see you guys next time.